All right, well, we will take it out to my colleague Jason Miles, who's on 288. I've been showing you those Houston Transtar cameras where you saw 288 looking more like a lake. I see a car submerged. It's exactly what we were talking to AAA expert Doug Shoup about. Jason, good morning.
Hey Jennifer, yeah, we're on top of Holly Hall Drive, if you're familiar with that. It's not an exit along 288, but it's an overpass just north of the 610 loop, and you are looking at the northbound lanes of 288, the South Freeway, and you can see that a number of motorists got caught in rapidly rising water this morning, and as you said, it looks like a lake here, parts of 288. People, it looks like they got out of their cars and hopefully made it to safety. On the opposite side of the bridge we're on, the overpass we're on, I see it doesn't look any better, although I don't see as many cars in the water. Other drivers have just stopped before they got to the water and are just sitting there with their hazards on. Now, beware if you happen to get on the roadway, the 288 heading toward Houston, say from Pearland. Hopefully you will not do that. You'll wait till this storm passes. But as we approach this area, several people were coming the opposite way, going the wrong way on the freeway because they encountered the water, decided to turn back and go the wrong way again. So please be very careful, because those situations, as we know in the Houston area, after covering incidents over the years, can be very hazardous. But very impressive sight here along 288, something we saw during Harvey as well, if you'll recall.
Well, let's hope they can get to this man to save him. We can hear some sirens.
Yeah, we were wondering if first responders had arrived yet, but yeah, there they are right there. This is one of those problematic areas as well.
You know, guys?
Yeah, Jason?
You know, guys, I didn't even notice the guy. He must have been in the car when we first got here. Now I see that he is out of the car.
Yeah, he's in a very precarious position there.
Hopefully he can stay put until they actually...
The wind is really whipping, and it's hard to hear you.
And he's banging on the one of the doors. Maybe he's trying to help somebody else get out.
Oh, he needs to stay put. Those waters are...
Well, let's hope the first responders can get to him. Because you get in that water...
There's another person there.
It's like the hydraulics of a river. It's just so powerful right now. You don't want to get in that water.
Absolutely. If they can stay there and that water doesn't rise anymore.
Yeah, this is a pretty dramatic scene here. It looks like a pickup truck, right? Pickup truck?
Yeah, we can barely hear you, Jason. The wind is so powerful out there.
Actually, it's... I'm gonna actually get into our news unit. That way I can better hear you, and I can put on my glasses so I can see more clearly as well.
Yeah, there you go. We can hear you a lot better now.
Yeah, so people are just joining us. This is 288 near Holly Hall.
So rapidly.
Yeah.
This is 288 near Holly Hall.
Yeah, we're on top of Holly Hall looking.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, we're on Holly Hall looking down onto 288. Northbound lanes. This would be the far right lanes, if not the feeder road on 288 approaching the 610 loop. So you take that exit to get on the feeder onto the south loop, if you will. It looks like at least one gentleman is on top of the roof of his pickup. Some fire crews just pulled up on the upper roadway, which is kind of a side street that parallels 288 but is elevated. And you guys say you saw a second individual. I cannot tell from my vantage point whether there is a second individual, but
I can't really tell, but he was
there's
banging.
definitely one male on top of the roof.
Yeah, he was banging on the side, and we thought that maybe somebody was coming out the other side of the window. And I know people are asking, why would someone drive into water this deep? The chances are it wasn't this deep when he first went in, and he just got stuck in probably a foot or so of water, but it started to rise, and that's the thing that will catch you. The good news is the fire crews are there. They see him. They know he's there, and they can hopefully get him without any injury.
Yeah,
I see a fire personnel outside of the truck as we speak, looking down toward there, and I think they're trying to formalize the way they're going to go down and approach this gentleman, because the water, as you can see, has somewhat of a current, even though he's pretty close to the grassy area there.
And this is the exact reason why Judge Lena Hidalgo was saying, please don't get out if you don't have to, because they were all going to be very stressed to be able to get out and help rescue people. The good news is, because she said that would be very limited, the good news is that they are there.
Yes. This is why you should stay home. Houston is, as we know, a city of bayous and a city of many freeways, and sometimes those freeways look like bayous in instances like this one.
And obviously, guys, this water is somewhat high, but even on Saturday when we had that thunderstorm that I guess was somewhat but not really related to Beryl, in my neighborhood in the Greenway Plaza area, Richmond, part of Richmond, was flooded, and I happened to see someone try to drive through what appeared to be very shallow water, and their car got stuck and they had to push it out, and about 3 other cars got stuck in the water as well. So that illustrates just how little water it takes to really cause you a big headache.
Yeah. All right, Jason, can you back up a little bit? You've been in that area all morning long, and as I mentioned earlier, what may have been like a foot of water just a little while ago is now a lot more water. So when you first arrived in that area, what was the weather like, and what was the water level like, and what changes have you seen that lead to this right here?
Well, we were coming from Pearland to this area because we heard about some stranded or abandoned vehicles or people trapped. We didn't know people were trapped, but we were heading north on from Pearland into Houston. When we got to the loop, we encountered several cars heading toward us, flashing their lights, their high beams back and forth, because they had encountered the water, obviously, and decided to turn around to try and go back toward Pearland. Obviously, these people were heading toward Pearland earlier in the day, encountered this water. I don't know how deep it was at the time they encountered it, but as you know, water can rise rapidly in a flash flood situation. And these freeways, keep in mind, in many areas are designed to carry water or hold water during a flood situation. And as I mentioned earlier, we saw this exact scenario along 288 during Harvey, and maybe previous floods as well. Obviously, there's been a lot of improvements to 288 specifically, but obviously it's still a problem water-wise, or it's doing its job. It's just you're not supposed to go through it if you encounter this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've lived in Houston for any amount of time, you know that this area of 288 is prone to doing just this.
Yeah, and a lot of it just has to do with, with this is the system we're in. Jennifer Reyna, I mean, they call us the Bayou City for a reason, and that's what happens is that, the water swells up and then goes off into the bayous. When those bayous get full, it has nowhere else to go.
That's right.
So people really need to pay attention to the roadways right now, because it can sneak up on you. We also always hear from neighbors that their streets have never flooded before, and then all of a sudden in a particular storm it does. So you can never really predict fully what's going to happen on those streets.
I know, this is so true. I mean, this construction of the toll lanes in Harris County began back in 2016. So you can just imagine right now they are lowering a ladder, fire crews on scene trying to make this rescue. Again, we're looking at the 288 corridor at 610. Currently a rescue of what looked to be one male driver of this truck. You can see fire personnel walking slowly down the side of the ramp there to get a closer view. More fire personnel about to arrive on the backside of that first responder, most likely with some rescue equipment. That gentleman, you could see when he was outside of the truck, he was rolling up the bottom part of his pants, seemed to be in good health, and I think he was prepping, to make that wet jump from the truck to some destination, and then he realized they were bringing over the ladder truck and that they were going to indeed attempt this rescue. But again, 288 at 610 is one of many spots that are under high water. That is why we have continuously for 6+ hours now told Houstonians to stay off of the roadways, but some emergency personnel and some folks have to be out on the roads. So this man seems to be in a work truck or that type of a vehicle. He's now crawled out of the interior of the cab, and he's on the top of his truck, obviously waiting for those personnel to come down the ladder to make the rescue. Jason, what are you seeing?
Yeah, as you said, that ladder being extended over the pickup truck and the stranded motorist. The question is, how exactly will they decide to try and rescue him? I have seen cases where the person just grabs onto the ladder, or firefighter or other personnel is on the ladder and reaches down and gets the person, or they'll lower the ladder and he'll just climb up the ladder toward the higher ground. I'm waiting to see exactly how they proceed. There was one fire department member on the apron of the the concrete apron of the freeway.
Not going to be
Now
easy.
it's just a waiting game to see exactly how they proceed.
Well, it's not going to be easy because it's dangerous for everybody out there. You've got these tropical storm force winds that are blowing right now, and just in the short time we've been on this shot, I can see the water rising.
Yeah, and you were saying earlier, it probably didn't drive into
yeah,
anything.
it's definitely
that high,
moving
right?
swiftly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's covering more of his truck now than just a few minutes ago.
If he had stayed in there, yeah, that would have been a problem. We heard, Lena Hidalgo say earlier, our county judge, that rescue crews would be hard pressed to get to anybody today. So it's really good to see that they were able to get out there, because her thought was that no one would get out there and risk their lives right now until it got a little bit easier. So the good news is they were out and able to get to him.
Well, they might have some kind of lifeline with a harness or something like that
yeah.
maybe he can put on.
Yeah.
But
I think they were dropping a ladder earlier.
Honestly, when we first pulled up, guys, we didn't know I didn't know anyone was in the truck. When I was doing my first report, my back was to the wind because it was so loud, and I guess he got out of the truck during that moment, and I think you spotted him before I did. So he was waiting in the truck, I guess, for a while. Maybe he called 911 himself or something.
well, he's lucky he was able to make it out of that truck. It would have been it's so hard when you've got that water surrounding your vehicle to try to open a door or even roll down a window.
Yeah, because the water comes rushing in.
The amount of
you're
pressure you're
basically
talking
submerged
about
in there.
is unbelievable. All right, if you're just joining us, you're watching the drama unfold right here on 288 that's turned into a lake as this man was stuck in his truck. Houston firefighters are trying to retrieve him now. A very delicate process because they're battling with the winds. Look at him trying to battle. It's obviously very windy out there.
And this is an area that's also prone to flooding. But as we were talking with Jennifer Reyna earlier, in Houston, where it's going to flood can change consistently because of just how we even do construction and the runoff of water. And this probably started as something he thought he could negotiate and drive into. And when you get stuck in even a foot or a couple of feet of water and then it starts to rise, that's when you're really in trouble. And when we had zoomed in on that, all of a sudden we see the man come out of the car and climb onto the top of it.
Well, eventually you try to stay calm in this situation, but when the water starts getting into your truck that's a little bit higher of a vehicle, you start making calls and saying, how am I going to get through this? What am I going to do? Are emergency crews going to be able to reach me? How long will it take them? Do I call my wife, or do I call my brother, or do I call emergency crews? There might be a little bit of, sometimes I think, I'm going to embarrassingly, call emergency crews, and sometimes they wait, and when that water really starts to ebb up, creep up the side of the truck, you just have to do it.
There's definitely a sense of panic. I had a sense of panic just driving into about, I had to turn around this morning, so I can imagine what this person's going through right now. All right, Jason, all morning long we've been talking about the fact that there's so little traffic on the roads, but whatever traffic is on the roads, clearly that can be a problem as well. So reset the scene for us as you were driving around this morning. You noticed that there was very little traffic on the road, but you also got reports of some people in trouble.
That's right. We were down in Pearland covering the storm, and someone at the station said you may want to go check out this area, 610 the Loop and 288, where some abandoned vehicles were. In fact, I think Jennifer saw that on Transtar as well and shared some shots from that. It was hard to tell, though, in detail what was going on. But when we got here, I saw this pickup truck, there's another sedan, and maybe one other car stuck in the water. And this guy got out of this pickup. Hopefully no one is in these other vehicles. And as you see, he's sitting on his roof now. HFD has responded, and they are taking their time, as you might imagine, to try and figure out how to safely rescue this guy from the top of his pickup truck. They have a life vest, I should say, as one member of the fire department is heading toward the end of the ladder from the ladder truck, and I assume that he will toss down the life jacket, so at least the guy, if he falls in the water or something, will be floating. Otherwise, they may use a rope or some other apparatus to try and bring him onto the ladder, or give him a life jacket and attach a rope to him or something. That way the folks on the bank can pull him to shore. I've seen it work that way as well. In any event, I know he is looking forward to getting off that truck, and surprisingly, it hasn't shifted that much in the water. it's halfway up the truck, and in many cases it may start floating or something, but we haven't seen that to this point.
Yeah, to
And
your
it looks
point,
like
a
they're
lot of
getting
people.
ready to dispatch that life jacket.
Yeah, to your point, a lot of people think, what would I do if I was in this case? And especially if someone thinks you're a good swimmer, and you forget different water does different things. Swimming in a swimming pool is very different than swimming in the ocean, which is very different than being in floodwaters, not to mention other things that could be in those floodwaters.
Yes, and the power of the water right now, he would have been washed downstream, so to speak.
Yeah, because the point of this is that it's going to drain, right? And if you've ever just even looked at it when you're draining water out of your bathtub, the power that it has to do that.
Okay, we're all praying nothing wrong
And there's a lot
happens
of
here.
debris in this water.
Yeah.
I also wanted
There's
to
a lot of
comment
debris,
that
tree limbs and things like that.
I also wanted to comment that nearby, multiple other vehicles are also submerged, so wondering how those drivers made it out. But this current rescue of this gentleman, he's staying pretty calm, relatively speaking, by just, waiting for emergency crews as they extend what seems to be some sort of life raft.
Well,
or,
I'm sure he appears calm, but
Yeah. Well, I
yeah.
think the sense of calm is that somebody showed up, because
Yes.
that's the worst if you're sitting there and you feel like nobody in the world knows that you're out there and that you're in trouble. So the fact that they're there is lifted a big burden for sure.
all right, so he's got it.
Yep, he's gotten the lifesaver or the ring, and it's still attached to the ladder, if I'm not mistaken.
And you have to wonder how many times is this scene going to be repeated today?
You look at the time involved to do it right, to make sure that they save this man's life. But crews can only go so far. There are only so many out there.
And in some areas it's too dangerous for
Absolutely.
rescue crews to get to.
Yeah, and it's starting to attract attention. The few motorists that are on the road, those crossing Holly Hall, a couple or 3 or 4 have stopped, pulled over, gotten their cell phones out, and are now watching this rescue as well.
He's now connecting the straps. Make sure you tighten those.
And if you get out there, don't assume there will be somebody who will be able to help you.
I've never been in a situation
Yeah,
like that.
no.
I can just wonder what's going through his head right now.
I can tell you there are times that we could have been, because I think a lot of us have taken chances in getting through high water. You think, oh, I have an SUV, I'll be fine. This person's in a truck, it's not fine. And again, the whole point is so deceiving, because once you get stuck someplace in lower water, then you're basically a sitting duck, no pun intended, because that water is just going to rise.
Well, he got lucky. He can replace the truck.
You replace a life.
Yeah, I had to get back out of the truck for a minute just to get a closer look. But it's so windy, it's hard for you to hear me out there. So I'm going to hop back in as we watch.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
I'm sure the
what will be a
firefighters. I'm
successful
sure the
rescue of this man
firefighters
on
are
the
yelling
pickup.
instructions to the man as well.
So he has a ring around his waist. He has a life vest on around his neck. So at least in case he floats away, he's attached and won't go too far.
It looks like that water has risen since we started with this just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, it most certainly has.
Yeah, I've been looking at a phone number. There's a phone number on the tailgate of the truck. It must be a construction business or some other business, and so I've been watching it, and it's gotten closer and closer to that phone number.
But he's literally gotten a lifeline from local firefighters.
So it looks like they're telling him to make a move here.
Okay.
There he goes.
I guess he'll walk his way through there, wade his way through the water, and they've got the line attached to him just in case.
I think what they'll do is they'll start to move the ladder, and the ladder will kind of guide him over, is what I'm thinking. Yeah, they're retracting the ladder. Yep, the ladder is going back toward the truck and or over to the bank.
Now it looks like he's basically standing in that water, so you can see how high it is, right above his shoulders.
Yeah, hopefully he can get his footing here, and that'll be it.
Ooh.
Slowly making his way
Oh, there you go. Grabbing of a
toward
hand.
the shore. Thank goodness they saved him.
Prayers answered on that one, right?
Yeah, that was quite something. If you guys will forgive me, I may run over there and try to get a word with him.
Absolutely, Jason. Yes, please go do that. Right now, let's go to Cheetah Craft. And Cheetah, this is probably going to be repeated several times throughout the day. And you know, here's the thing: people are feeling this false sense of security. I keep getting text messages. In my area, it's calmed down. So is it going to be okay? Can I go do some stuff a little bit later on?
Try to stay
put,
home
right?
if
Stay
you
put.
can.
Stay